Welcome to Growing Startups, where we talk to growth leaders and marketing professionals about how to drive sustainable growth from the ground up. I'm your host, Evelyn Cools, and I lead marketing for tech startups. I'm excited to share these candid conversations about marketing, culture, collaboration, and everything else that makes startups grow. I'm joined today by Johanna Cohen, who is a product marketing and communications leader at B2B SaaS. And one of the things that stood out to me when I saw your LinkedIn headline was that you have category creation in it, which I think is just something really interesting because I think there's a lot of talk about this topic, whether you should or shouldn't create a category. So that's just one of the things we're going to touch on today, but so much more for us to talk about. I love talking to product marketers. It's one of my favorite parts of marketing. So before we get into all of it, I would love to give you the floor and just give some color and explain, what you've done so far and what you're working on right now.
Thanks so much for having me here today. I'm excited to dive into product marketing. Why is product marketing important? And talk about category creation. Category creation is the cool, sexy thing to do in startups, but it doesn't always make sense. So we'll kind of dive into when you should be thinking about category creation, when you should not be, and how to kind of approach category creation. A bit about me. I've been doing marketing for the past decade, started in HR tech, and then moved over into agriculture and sustainability product marketing. Ended up pivoting into corporate marketing, so comms, PR, website, all the things. And then for the past 6 months, I've been doing freelance a lot through the Product Marketing Alliance, which is an organization I've worked for the past 3 years. So I teach core courses, core certification courses, leadership accelerators, and I create custom trainings for Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies about whatever topic they want to talk about in terms of product marketing.
This podcast is brought to you by Evelyn Cools Marketing. If you're an early stage B2B tech founder who wants marketing to actually work, you're in the right place. As a fractional head of marketing and growth advisor, I help early stage B2B startups take marketing from 0 to 1 by building the foundations, testing different channels, and scaling what works. I'm currently offering a free strategy call where I do an audit of what you've tried with marketing so far and share practical advice that I believe will make the biggest impact on your growth engine. Visit evelyncools.com to book your free strategy call today. Now back to the episode. That's awesome. And yeah, I have heard of the Product Marketing Alliance for a long time. So I was kind of like a little starstruck to talk to you for the first time because I was like, oh, it's this thing that I've been following ever since I even was thinking about becoming a marketer myself. So that's really cool. I know we have a lot to talk about. So before we get into all of the product marketing talk, I do like to ask people in the startup world, and also I think as a freelancer too, we've been doing this for a pretty similar amount of time, and I found that it is hard to keep your balance, to make time for yourself. I feel like you could always be working. So I'd love to hear if there's anything that you do that's kind of like a wellness practice or ritual.
There are, I would say, 3 things that I'm going to say 4 things. I like to do a lot of things. I have a very big veggie garden. So in the summer, I built terraces all with stone. And so I built my own raised beds. My mom and I, one summer a few years ago, we built this big veggie garden, and that's my favorite thing to work on over the summer. So that's one of my wellness, but that's really specific to the summer. I have a dog named Basil who loves my vegetable garden and loves when the fence is not up while I'm kind of prepping the garden. So hanging out with him, doing gardening, taking him on walks. The walks happen throughout the year. Those are 2 of them. And then I love to take the vegetables and I love to cook. So I do a ton of cooking. So I plant everything in my garden, and I'll freeze it. I'll freezer pickles. I'll make tomato sauce. So I freeze tons. I'll make pesto cubes, tons of different things. And then I also love to paint pictures of fruits and vegetables, and I do a lot of expressionist painting. So I kind of all go back to that garden idea, but just different components of how I kind of add that into my wellness practices.
I love this so much. And also, I love that your dog is called Basil. Great continuation of the theme. So we just bought a house, our first house, first time having a garden. And I would love to get into it, but even just planting flowers, I've realized like you need to know what you're doing or they're just gonna die. So, what's like a good, maybe what's like your favorite vegetable or fruit to grow? And do you think it would be good for a beginner like me?
Well, I obviously am very biased to planting basil, which is why my dog, who's sleeping next to me, is called Basil. But that's super easy. It really has no maintenance. Like you have to water it, but that's it. It's incredibly easy. Lettuce is also really easy and it's very prolific. Like you can eat it for a long time. Kale is another one. I think basil's great. And then you can like clip it, freeze it, make pesto cubes, put it into ice cube trays and make pesto cubes and take them out during the winter. So maybe try basil.
I love it. I think that's great. I also use a lot of basil in my cooking and always get sad when I just like have to throw away the remnants of a store-bought plant. So I guess that's a good it's a good thing to
Yeah.
start with.
And if you want to like keep it sustainable, you could at the end of the season kind of take the basil plant out that you have planted and put it into a pot because basil can also be in the house and then just water it throughout the winter.
Okay, such good tips. I'm gonna have to talk to you more about gardening because I need all the tips.
Okay, we can dive deep into it another time.
Love it. All right, let's get into the product marketing chat. And I would love to start with just getting like a general overview because I think, especially for founders listening, and even some marketers, I feel like there's so many different types of marketing, and it can be hard to know like what you should invest in first as a startup, what the different types of marketing do. And as I said earlier, like I'm a huge fan of product marketing. I think it's one of the most important hires for a startup, especially early on. So I'd love to hear from you, like what do you think product marketing is, entails, and where you think it sits in a startup?
Yeah, so I would say product marketing is different at like every company. You talk to someone, their job really can look super, super different. You know, there can be someone who's doing a ton of sales enablement. A product marketer who's focused on competitive analysis. There can be a product marketer who's focused on like technical product marketing. Like they could be helping doing demos. Like the product marketing really, really can be very different. But I would say the core skill across a successful product marketer is they're very good at communication. So they're very good at working across teams, understanding what the problems are, seeing where they could help kind of plug those problems. How can they be fixed? What's missing? I like to think about product marketers as a connective tissue between teams. You're kind of the partner for all these teams. So you're the partner for sales. You could be the partner for finance, bringing together product with what, how are we going to make money from building this product? So a product marketer, whether you're actually building the go to market launch plan or are you building the sales, like you can really do so many different things, but the top skill of a successful product marketer is being incredibly good at communication and building relationships, working cross-functionally. So communication is the number one skill. And I would say, going back to your question on kind of when should a product marketer be brought into the organization, I think right away. Like a product marketer's, they're not, they might not be your number one at demand gen and they might not be your number one at marketing ops, but they're like the product marketing skill set is someone who can dive pretty quickly, pretty deep into a lot of different subjects. I like to think of them as kind of similar to like a chief of staff. They are really good at understanding things pretty quickly, figuring out what's going well, what's not going well, and then building a plan to fix that or to build towards a goal. So I would say early, I would say, don't expect them to be perfect at every area of marketing. It's not realistic. No one's perfect at every area of marketing, but you have someone who can really figure out a lot of things really fast and also is very good at communication, which you need as you're building something.
Yeah, I could not agree more. It's very like foundational, I feel, to just your business because like you said, they might not be the best at demand gen or the best at marketing ops, but I think those roles can only be successful if you have that good like product marketing person who's doing all the positioning work and the messaging and understanding the customer and like being that bridge, like you said, between the CS team and the product team and the sales team, like they need to know everything. I think one of the things that I mentioned in a previous episode kind of relates to this as well. Like, I think product marketers specifically are kind of like bringing a therapist into your organization. And yeah, the communication piece is just that's that you hit the nail on the head there. Like, is that what you love about product marketing, or why did you decide to like go in this direction?
I think that's why I was hired as a product marketer. So I started product marketing in 2018, and I had zero marketing experience, zero SaaS experience, zero startup experience. So I had been living in Thailand. After college, I worked at JP Morgan, and afterwards, I really didn't know what I wanted to go do. So I moved to Thailand with teaching English, did a bunch of traveling around the world, came back in 2017, and I was like, what is next? I need to figure it out. I need to talk to a lot of people, understand what are the available careers. I think in college, a lot of the stuff that I had seen was like large banks and consulting firms coming to talk to us. So that was kind of all I really knew if I went back to my college days. And I knew that's not what I wanted to go back into when I got back from being abroad. And so I just did a ton of different networking. And I landed in HR tech and product marketing because I had worked at career development in college. So I had spent like 3 years as a peer advisor helping people with resumes and cover letters and teaching them networking skills. And so that was kind of how I ended up working for an HR company, because I had had kind of this exposure to HR. And a Columbia alum was working at this company. I connected with them, learned more about it, and I was like, oh, wait, this product marketing thing seems really cool. They were hiring at this company called Workable. It's an applicant tracking system, which is the system that you see when you're applying to a job and you have to put your resume in. That's an applicant tracking system. And they really wanted someone who was good at communication. So I had, as I said, zero zero experience in this type of thing, but I understood kind of the broad strokes of HR. I knew how to communicate. I knew how to kind of figure my way out through an organization, and I knew how to build relationships. So when I was interviewing, and I interviewed with a bunch of different people, I interviewed with the CEO. They were pretty small at that point. So I interviewed kind of across the board with this company. And when they hired me, it was because I was good at communication, and they saw that pretty quickly. It was a deep dive into product marketing. I joined on a team of 3. The other 2 people then switched teams right after I joined. So I was just like a little lone ship figuring it out. Probably the most helpful thing that I did was I went to Pragmatic Institute's course. It's a course that's a lot of product managers go to it, but also product marketers. And I kind of got the fundamentals of what does it mean to launch a product? What does it mean to price a product? How do you kind of think about bringing a product to market? And that was, I went to that very soon into joining Workable, a month or 2 months into joining Workable. And that was a great foundation into understanding what do I actually, now I joined this company. The other 2 people are now at another team. What is my job? And that was super helpful. And Workable was a Series B into Series C company when I was there.
Interesting. Is that the type of company that you work with now as well as a freelancer, or is it more diverse?
Yeah. So after Workable, I went to Indigo Ag, a unicorn company that was valued at a few $1 billion. I've joined Indigo as a product marketer. And as I said, I kind of moved across a bunch of different teams until I ended up leading their corporate marketing. And then once I left Indigo, I've been freelancing with Product Marketing Alliance. So it depends on the type of company. So I've taught over the past 6 months, a core certification. So it's people coming in from a bunch of different companies. I don't remember specifically who was at that certification, but I've taught product marketers from Adobe and Bloomberg and Salesforce. I taught a leadership accelerator this winter. I'm teaching an enterprise training. So it's a full custom training all about sales enablement and product marketing collaboration and getting your message out to the sales team effectively. I'm teaching that in May and June. And so that's a fully custom 2-day training.
If you were like a product marketer going into more of an early stage startup, like what are the first things that you would do? Like do you have conversations with specific people and try to like figure out positioning, or like what's your go-to when you first start working with a new company?
Yeah, I would say a couple different things. So, one, I would say conversations internally, especially with the sales team who are sales and customer success and support. So, people that are speaking to customers and prospects all day long. And then I would also try to get talking to the prospects into the customers. So, get into conversations myself and do some field research, whether that's a conversation I'm setting up myself or whether it's a conversation that I'm part of with a user researcher, depending on kind of the size of the company. And then I would also say, ask there's like the strategy team what newsletters they're reading, like, so start getting a digest of what's happening in the market so that you can start learning what everybody needs to be paying attention to. So it could be what is the strategy team reading, what is the comms team reading, what is the CEO reading, so that you're quickly deep diving into what's happening in the market. And I would say those would be my top kind of things. So what are customers asking for, what are prospects asking for, from ideally the voice of the prospect and the customer, and then what's happening in the market overall. Those would be my top recommendations, as well as getting into the product. Like, you need to be using, like, you don't need to be a user of the product. Like, if you're not a recruiter, you might not be using the product, for instance, but you need to be able to walk yourself through the product. You need to know what's working, what's not working. Why are they doing certain things to the roadmap? Is it a table stakes? Is it a new innovation? You need to be very familiar with how is the product being built and why is the product being built in that way.
Such good recommendations. And I do feel like as a product marketer, you have to become an expert in the field, like whatever it is, like you said, the product, and then also the industry. Like you're the one who has to know how to talk like your customer. It's not easy. Like this is something that I'm finding now too with being fractional and working with multiple clients in very different spaces. Like you, I came into marketing from the HR tech side and then have also had experience in health tech, but now my clients are kind of like across the board with SaaS. So I feel like I'm just like learning how the world works, like all these different niches that I had no idea about. And it's exciting, but it's also like, I don't know, I feel like it's one of the hardest jobs to do in marketing.
I would say that every area of marketing really needs to understand the market. Whether you are a brand marketer, whether you're doing marketing ops, if you're doing marketing ops, what should you be measuring? Maybe it's not the exact same at every company. Like, I don't know that everybody needs to be as deep as a product marketer. Like, part of the job as a product marketer is incredibly deep industry knowledge. But I think every marketer in general, like, they should be touching the product here and there. I think it's really important to be having customer conversations because it helps build your overall marketing skills and ability to speak to that industry and that customer and that prospect in whatever job and function you are as a marketer.
I actually totally agree. Do you feel like this is something that I've sometimes found difficult is getting access to customers and actually being able to like get on a call with them as the marketer? Is that something that you've ever experienced? And like, how would you go about it if you do?
It's not something I've experienced, but I definitely know people who have experienced that. I would go back to the have you built a relationship with the sales team where they can trust you? And that goes from the minute that you start interacting with your sales, customer success, customer support teams, you want to be their trusted partner. You want them to see you as the person that's enabling them to meet their goals, to better help the customers, to sell more to the prospects. You are their partner. And from the minute that you're meeting them, it's building that relationship. So I could understand from the sales side if someone just comes in and is like, I want to speak to customers, but you don't have a relationship. Why are they going to put their name on the line to then help you? Like, it's so much of it from the beginning and throughout your relationship is building that relationship with the people who have direct access so that they see you as someone who can then help them. Oh, if this person, if Johanna or if Evelyn speaks to my customer or my prospect, the way that they're talking is actually might help me sell better. They like that. It's so much of building that relationship so that they can trust you to then speak to their contacts.
We're all a team. I think that sometimes like gets forgotten, especially between sales and marketing. And I recently had on a fractional sales leader, and we talked about like why marketers and sales like beef. And it's because we're often not on the same page, or yeah, it's we're not really thinking about like how can we actually help each other out and how can we help like reach this common goal. It's more just like, okay, I'm on my little island and like I need to hit my KPIs and I got to like do all this stuff, but not really thinking about the bigger picture. And especially at a startup, like it's crazy how that still happens when it's such a small team. But I feel like it sometimes happens more that people live in silos and aren't actually working together.
Yeah, I think that some of it is knowing kind of what are the KPIs between teams, where should KPIs be synced? Like maybe sometimes it needs to be the same KPI across teams so that people are working towards the same goals. Some of that has to do with kind of higher up leadership and how are they thinking about team collaboration and working together. But even if you don't have kind of the buy-in of the higher up leadership in creating some type of like standard company KPIs, if you build those relationships across teams, you're seen as that partner. I don't think people should have an issue talking to customers. I think it's when someone is really disconnected from understanding where customers are coming from, they don't know the product well. I think that's when there can be issues because I mean, I would also understand if I'm not fluent in the language that customers are coming to me with. I also wouldn't want me on that call. Like, you don't need to be the customer, but you need to really be open to understanding them.
So I love that you took this back to relationship building and building trust internally. I think that's like such an important piece for successful marketing. And it's also something when we look externally, that's becoming more and more of a focus area, I think, for myself as a marketer, but anyone that I see like building trust on LinkedIn or creating content that really shows like who the people are behind the brand. So I would love to hear from you, like what is the type of content? Like, do you see this as the most important thing to be doing right now? And then what kind of content do you think works really well?
I've thought about this for a lot over the past couple of years. So while I was at Indigo and I moved into the corporate marketing role, I took over our social media, and brand is still incredibly important. Like your brand social media, absolutely still important. People, Indigo had almost 100,000 followers on LinkedIn, for instance. Like, very important place to get your message out. But who's connected to all the individuals? It's individuals. It's the people that are showing up at the conference. It's the people that are talking to customers, whether it's in a demo call, whether it's in a partnership call. So, and kind of enabling the individuals to be brand representatives where people are showing up. So it could be LinkedIn, depending on who you're talking to. It could be in community Facebook groups. It could be in Reddit threads. It could be on Instagram or TikTok, depending on who your audience is. But I think that brand absolutely still an important place to be building, and building in different ways depending on, which audience and what message you want to get out to that audience, because different people are on different social media platforms. But the individual and what they're saying, especially over the past couple of years, has gotten more and more important. And it was something I thought about a lot over the past couple of years of how do I enable the teams that I'm working with to get their message out. And it's not just like giving that message to sales. It's helping enable your executives with the proper messaging. It's helping enable, and one of our areas of experts was like science teams, giving them the messages, helping them record even videos out in the field. We had a really wonderful VP of science at Indigo, and he was super willing while he was out in the field to record a video, talk about the science, bring it back out to his audience. And he was connected to tons of different scientists who wanted to learn about regenerative agriculture. And it was a great place to then open questions, open up debate. So it's enabling the right people on the right platforms alongside your brand social media.
Yeah, that's a really great distinction. I feel like I think a lot of people are kind of feel it's really daunting to start sharing on social media, and it can be really tough as the marketer to gently encourage and like give people the right messages and maybe the right like data or the type of content. And I love what your example too about like video and kind of making them feel empowered to record that stuff and share it from just their own perspective and in a way that actually makes sense for them, because this person was very open to recording video, but not everyone is. I think like the minority of people actually love creating video content. So like what can you help people with to make sure they're showing up in a way that feels comfortable to them and that they can sustain? So yeah, I really like that. But I'm also glad that you mentioned the piece about brand still being important, because I think I've kind of seen like a really big push towards just the personal branding. And I mean, I've gotten like advice to not even post on our company page anymore, which I also don't think is right. You know, you need like the two to be working together. I think there's a couple of brands that do this really well. Like, I actually really enjoy HubSpot's content recently, or like Chili Piper, because they really like ping pong off of each other, where it's like the people behind the brand and then the brand like have conversations with each other on LinkedIn, which I find kind of fun. Are there any examples or like companies that you think are doing this well?
I love Ramp's social media, the corporate like credit card social media. Their social media is fantastic. Their brand, like it's a ton of like kind of that people ping ponging off of each other on the messages they're writing. They're super creative videos that they're using. The messages are funny. They're not just like, oh, buy this finance system. It's like really connects to just like people in general. Like I am not the buyer for them, but I love it. Like I watch their stuff all the time. I think they're doing a fantastic job with their social media. I also think Airbnb does a really good job with their social media at kind of showing people experiences that they could have, whether it's in a home, whether it's within their experiences product. They really kind of draw you into what you get as a user, I would say. Going back to the getting people to post, I don't think that everybody needs to be becoming an influencer. I think it's not necessarily realistic, but there's ways to get teams involved, whether it's getting them to take pictures out in the field that then can be used on the brand, or whether it's customers that they've worked with and building referral programs or building case studies and videos. Even if they don't need to be the one making the video. Like the marketing team can make the video, but they can help create kind of that customer reference program and referral network that then can be shown on social media to make people feel like the brand is real and authentic.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this is something that as a marketer, you're always like trying to remind people of, even if like the founders are at a conference, I'm always like texting them, can you take some pictures? So the
Mhm.
more that you can like get people involved and thinking about that and excited about it too, like the fact that they're helping with this like bigger picture of growing the business, because in the end, that's what marketing is doing. Like that's also an exciting mission to be a part of. So maybe it's also about like marketers making it feel fun for the rest of the team.
Yeah, it's making the team feel involved in what's getting kind of sent out to the market. Like everybody kind of getting onto the same page and getting excited about the way that the brand is being represented externally.
Totally agree. Because they work there. Like it's cool for them too when we're showing up in these like new and fun ways. So yeah, I totally agree. The last thing that I definitely want to touch on is the category creation piece, because I think this is like something that a lot of people, especially when you're creating this like entirely new product and you're a founder who sees a gap in the market, is maybe frustrated with how things have been done in the past, and is really like building this out of experience. I think it's easy to default to, oh, we just like want to create our own category. And, you know, that's not always the right move, but sometimes it is. So I am like very wary of ever like entertaining the category creation conversation with people unless I feel like it's really like the only thing we can do, or it's really going to set us apart. So I'm going to give you the floor because I'm so curious like what your experience is with this.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about category creation. I'm also going to talk about naming and product naming because I think that's another one where everybody wants to have a unique name for every feature that it goes out to the market, and it's just not necessary for a couple of reasons. One, if people are not do not know to search that name online. So, for instance, I remember a few years ago, no, it's not a few years ago, it's like 8 years ago at this point, but we were launching a self-scheduling feature. So like a Calendly, but for the applicant tracking system for a candidate to be able to schedule with a recruiter or with the interviewer. So they would get the calendar feature, be able to schedule. So we didn't come up with like a branded name for it because it's a feature that's in the market and it doesn't need a branded name. You just need to know that, hey, cool, we have this product. Great, makes it easier for candidates. It's just part of our portfolio. Wonderful. You don't need to be coming up with a new name that no one's searching for. And so you have to kind of make the trade-off of, are people, is this so different in the market that you want to be making a big brand splash? Or does this exist? Are people already searching for this? Do you just need this kind of to be checked off as, yes, we have this? So I think there's a lot of things to be thinking about when you're naming a product, which then also gets into kind of the category creation. But you don't want to be creating a new category for every product feature or add-on or what you're launching. Like, you need to be very careful with how many things then you're going to give to your SEO or like people that are doing search on LLMs. Like, you need to be really careful on how many new branded terms you want, because there's a ton of stuff that goes into creating a new branded term. So you need to be very careful. You already have a branded term when it comes to your company name. And there might be other times where you want to have branded terms for a product, or maybe there's a feature that is so distinct and unique that that's the time for a branded term, but you need to be careful with that. And then going into the category creation side. So Indigo was working on many different like new categories. So one of those categories was the first high quality carbon credits at a large scale. So Indigo worked kind of between farmers who were changing the way that they farmed in order to store more carbon in the soil, and then agribusinesses, so businesses that work with these farmers to help them with introducing them to new programs. So we worked with those partners to then work with farmers, so both direct to farmer, with agribusinesses. And then we also worked with corporates, so people that wanted to then buy those carbon credits. So companies like Microsoft and BCG, JP Morgan, North Face, so a bunch of different companies. Indigo was the first company to, at scale, bring regenerative agriculture carbon credits that had a quality that can go through a registry, get verified to the market. So that is a totally new category, and something that happens when you're building that new category is, before you're selling it, you need to be educating the market. So a lot of what I did at Indigo, especially in the early years, was building educational systems. So I did a lot of content marketing. So from creating a blog that connected to, we had a bunch of agronomic tools, like agriculture tools in the product that then we brought external to the market so people could test them to then get them into the product, that connected to content where they would be able to learn about regenerative agriculture, which is like sustainable agriculture, to learning about carbon markets, why they should be involved, how they'll get paid, what is the cost to transition on their farm, to what type of farming practices are right for my one farm a county over, or even like across the river could be completely different than a farm 200 yards away. Like, farms change a lot. So things are very unique depending on whether it's the terrain, the climate, the soil type at a farm that actually could be pretty close by, let alone 3 states away. So a lot of what I was doing with education, also an e-learning platform called Carbon College, which we made hours of video and certification courses for people to learn about carbon farming and how to change farm practices. And we would offer certification to this role called an agronomist, but it's basically an agriculture expert that helps farmers on their farm figure out how they want to farm that year. So we would offer certification to those agronomists through this e-learning. So a lot of it was the type of education that we needed for the different audiences. So going back to those 3 audiences, you have the agribusiness partners, those agriculture companies, you have farmers, and then you have corporates. And so who needs to know what type of thing? And then that's just like some of the markets, there's also policymakers and what policy are they deciding on. So there was a ton of education that was required and different types of education depending on what audience. So when you're building a category, you can't just go sell. Like you need to be thinking about, how do you introduce this topic? At what point does a sale make sense? Are they even going to be using the product? Are they not going to be using the product? Is it someone down the chain or up the chain that is touching this? So figuring out kind of how they're going to touch the product in a new market, it's a whole beast, but it's a very fun beast.
I'm so glad you kind of ran through all the things that you did outside of like launching the product and all this education that had to happen, because I think it's just helpful to like hear what actually goes into it, and it's something that's hard to explain sometimes when you have someone who's really excited about this product that they created and they want to give it this like really interesting name that's like very innovative for their space, but like to your first point, how are people even going to know what to search for? And then if you are going to do it, like there is all this other stuff that you have to think about. So when do you feel like it is worth creating a category or necessary versus not?
I would say understanding the market, and is it truly net new? Is it net new? Does it fit into a category that already exists? If it fits into a category that already exists, but the category is not innovative and you're really shaking it up. So maybe it is actually kind of I would say HubSpot would be a really good example of that. Like there were systems that did some of the basic stuff that HubSpot did when HubSpot started, but HubSpot shook up the market. And so the way that they thought about it when they were bringing kind of the inbound marketing to marketers was fully different. So they were kind of creating a category as they were going to market. So thinking about, do you need to create it's very hard to create a new market. So do you need to be creating a new market? Or is the total addressable market big enough that you don't need a new market? Like understanding what is happening in that market. Is there already a ton of content that exists that you can kind of tap into when you're building out your search and your paid media? Or we'll have people have no idea what you're talking about. If we didn't work on the educational side at Indigo, no one would have known what we were talking about. Like we needed that side. In order to build your go-to-market plan, content was like top of mind for any go-to-market launching that we were doing, because you needed to make sure that the market knew what you were talking about. So I think understanding how mature the market is and what exists, and is it really a disruptive product or is it not? And it's okay if it's not like a fully disruptive product. That doesn't mean it's not a wonderful product that's going to do really well in the market, but understanding who are you marketing to, why, what do they already have access to? I would say those are some of the questions that I would ask as a company.
I think I might have to send this clip to anyone that I talk to who is thinking about creating a category. This was really great. I think it's very helpful for people to hear, whether it's like founders or marketers who are considering this. And especially in the startup space, I feel like this is one of the most important things to think about when you're launching a new product. So thank you so much for that clarity. I think there's so much to take away from this. And I'd love to pull it back after all this great product marketing talk to you. And one of the things that I love to ask at the end of every episode, which is, what is something that you're excited about both in your personal and in your professional life?
In my personal life, I'm just about to celebrate my 1-year anniversary with my husband in a couple weeks. And it's just kind of a nice foundation, and I'm really excited about it. We had a really fun summer camp wedding last year, and I think it's just a really nice, it's been a nice thing. We met during COVID, and we've been together the past 5 years, and I'm just excited to be, celebrating our 1-year anniversary in May. And I would say in my professional life, I'm leading my first enterprise training through Product Marketing Alliance next week. So as I said, I've run a number of different trainings with them for 3 years, but my first enterprise one is next week, and everything's all set, and I'm very excited to do it.
Both of those things are awesome. Congrats on your wedding anniversary. Being married is great. So
Yeah.
that's going to be really fun. Are you doing anything in particular to celebrate?
It is my nephew's baptism, so we're going to his baptism. But then I think the weekend after, it's my birthday, so I think we might go camping up in Watkins Glen for the weekend, which is up in the Finger Lakes, in the Finger Lakes region. And we went there maybe about 4 years ago, so I think maybe we'll go up there the week after our anniversary.
So many things to celebrate. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Johanna, for being on. I think this was a really important conversation to have and very helpful for people. So, if people want to connect with you or follow along with what you're working on, where can they do that?
You can find me on LinkedIn. It's just Johanna Cohen.
Awesome. We all live on LinkedIn.
Exactly. Especially marketers.
Oh, yeah. It's like my social media of choice. All right. Well,
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much for being here. And yeah, we'll see you all in the next one.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to Growing Startups. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love for you to give us a rating so more people can find the show. So happy you're here, and see you in the next one.